The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mike, good afternoon. We're on Mannin Line, open line today till 1. Call 66 1368. You can WhatsApp and message on 166 177. Email studio@manxradio.com. Have you thought more about becoming the chairwoman or chairman of the Isle of Man steam packet? Chris Thomas reckons we should have some of the old brigade to become chair of the steam packet. And new rules are in place to help protect the Isle of Man's disease-free bee population and ecosystem. It sounds boring, doesn't it? Unless you know all about bees and honey. And remember, our honey is the best in the world. But we are disease-free. Lots of bee populations around the world are really in distress. And we're making sure, because let's face it, as a rule of thumb, no bees, no people. Within about 3-4 years, that's it. If you don't have bees to pollinate the plants, we are up the creek. And you know which creek? So well done to all the bee people on the Isle of Man. We'll perhaps hear later on Amy Beckett, the Chief Veterinary Officer, is talking about our bee population. First of all, David's with us now. Hi, David.
Hi, Randy. Just a quick thing. I just wondered, I was surprised that Manx Radio didn't have something this morning about the college when all the employees were invited up to speak to this guy from across and have questions and answers. And it's been very quiet, and I just wonder what's going on. Did anybody meet? Did anybody?
Didn't hear anything about that. That was on yesterday, wasn't it?
It was on Thursday, and I'm not an employer, so I wasn't entitled to come. But I'm interested to find out, how many apprentices we've got running within government and other organisations. And it's still up an issue, too, about being a tradesman. In my time, anyway, you have to be a tradesman to actually work on government work or local authority work. It's a condition. So you can be a builder, and to be a builder, you had to carry a joiner and a bricklayer to be classified as a builder. And any subbies that you used, you had to be registered as, say, Andy Wint Enterprises or whatever, and you were plasterers.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand, because if you're not in the trade, we often see, builders' vans and plumbers' vans going around saying government registered. What does that mean?
Well, you should be on a list, and the employees, it's not called the Employees Federation now, it's called something else, but you should be able to look at a list and give a little indication of genuine builders, genuine plumbers, electricians, blah, blah, all the way down the line. And you had a registration card. Of course, mine's now gone. But, and I'll check it next week, with the Water Authority, which is now Manx Utilities, all plumbers had to be registered there's an act that said you had to be registered in the Isle of Man and had qualifications, which was sitting gills or equivalent. So this is where the college comes in. Yeah. But my concern on that was, there's no big spill there about this guy coming to the Isle of Man. We're paying him to do it, and he's telling us how good it is somewhere else. Yeah. But what was his opinion of A, the Isle of Man, B, what is government doing, and I'm not being nosy, it's just general things.
Well, it will be, as you say, if we paid for him to come, it will be nice to know where we stand and how we... I'm just interested regarding this. So is there a difference between government registered and government approved?
I don't think there is in law. It means you have qualifications.
Right.
You did a city and guilds.
So this is for everybody. We're talking about roofers, plumbers, builders, anybody, electricians, people who install boilers and stuff like that.
Yeah. I would say to anybody out there, you'd be silly not to get a quote from somebody who's registered, because there's something behind it. Insurance, they're legitimate, and not fly-by-nights. Years ago, and I'm talking about 5 years ago, we did have a number of people coming to the Isle of Man to do work, and we're conning people.
Yeah.
Getting money up front, and that's why we brought in the Cold Calling Act, where you couldn't call somebody on the street. It was an offence, and it's still an offence.
Well, I remember somebody turning up at my door, David. They use the old spiel. Oh, I was just walking down the street and saw you got a few tiles missing. Would you like me to come and look at it? And the moment you say, "Give me your business card" or "Give me your number," then it goes really quiet.
Yeah. Now the other thing, Andy, I was going to take two, if you don't mind. Homelessness, and just put out there what's happening now. We've had this consultation. I think there was 800 submissions in it. So who's taking this forward to say, what's the next step? I've been noticing when I'm going to town and so forth, there's a number of youths, they're probably left school and stuff like that, wandering around with the hoodies on. I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong, but I just wondered whether, are those the people who are living in what we call rooms? And then, you know how cold the weather is in the daytime, never mind at night. You know, where are we moving on with this, and what's happening with Retina Bay or other facilities, which these guys, or there could be ladies as well, are probably going to have to move around about just after April, because they'll want to rent the rooms for TT week. So do they have conditions of their tenancy? Are they just going to be turned out of their rooms and say, I can get more money TT week just holding 5 or 6 people in the building? And that's the issue that government should be addressing. They had the consultation. Where are we now? We've got 800 submissions. So who's putting that together to say, yes, there is homelessness in the Isle of Man, and we're going to put some legislation forward to say this shouldn't happen? And I told you about the other day when I tried it myself. I rang the phone number. You go to the switchboard up near the hospital. The young guy said, well, you're the homeless person. And he said, not really. But wait a minute, I've got another number. And he gave me another number and rang that. And I wasn't impressed, if I could say. If I was homeless, and it's a sad thing to say, isn't it? People in their minds have something different and could do things stupid.
Well, the thing is, as we've mentioned many times, people can just be a couple of bad decisions away from being homeless. And then you get sucked into that spiral, which is more difficult to get out of. Yeah,
and when somebody's just got to reach out and say, mate, are you okay? Are you all right? Can we help you out on anything? Or where do we send these people to? The final thing I was going to say, because somebody asked me the other day and I didn't know, is if you're unemployed and you're on the welfare, whatever, can they help you to have a driving license, go driving lessons? Because this person said to me, and it's quite right when you look at it, driving is preferred. Do you know, in the job adverts?
Yeah, by all means, yeah. I mean, it's a skill, it's a requirement with many jobs.
Yeah, so why doesn't the government have a little scheme to get these people into driving lessons in bulk and say to them, look, now you've got an opportunity to get a job that you couldn't have because you couldn't drive.
Okay. All right. Thanks, David.
Bye.
Jay, have a good weekend. It's 12:15 now. What do you think about that? Now, considering the number of driving instructors that there are, we often, as you've heard, talking to the high schoolers, you have to go in a queue to get to a driving instructor. I also heard some skeet the other day that there aren't as many driving instructors because of orders from elsewhere. Are they restricting the supply of driving instructors? And also, I've just noticed, by the way, David was talking about homelessness, and remember, it was Rob Callister, one of the people who put questions in Keys and in Tynwald about homelessness. It's actually Rob Callister's political surgery tomorrow at Onchan Community Hub in School Road in Onchan, 10:30 to 11:30. Onchan MHK. Rob Callister will be in session there. And knowing Rob, there'll probably be a kettle on somewhere as well. So that's Rob Callister, political surgery tomorrow, Onchan Community Hub in School Road, Onchan, from 10:30. And Howard's with us now. Hi, Howard.
Hello, Andy. Yeah, I mean, just listening to David there, saying about fitters, electricians, etc. Well, we have our own boiler here. We own the boiler, and we get it serviced by the gas company here on the island. They send one of theirs, but because it's our boiler, we request a landlord certificate, as they call it. In other words, it tells you what's been done and does it pass and everything. We have to give one of them to the town hall, the council, because they're the property owners, but we own the boiler. And the actual engineer's number, gas safe number, is on the certificate. So, that covers that ground. Basically, it just shows that he is qualified. And because our boiler is our own and it's a specific boiler, the gas company a couple of years ago asked could they send somebody up to our house and said, we'll do a free service on your boiler, but the apprentice that we have here is coming to the end of his training, and a requirement is the ability to service this type of boiler. It's a back boiler, but it's gas. And we said, yeah, that's fine. And they came up, and the lad came up, and a senior, knowledgeable on these type of boilers, came with him and showed him the ropes, and that helped to get him through a certification for gas safe. So, but that's part and parcel of it. There used to be inspectors going around the building sites at one time, checking on various aspects of people that's coming to work on the island, whether they were allowed to or not. But that's not what I was coming on for, basically. Claire Barber has made an announcement now, and that the forestry are going to harvest the trees and ship a lot of them away. We're going to use some here on the island through the forestry board, making whatever they do. But a lot of the trees they're talking about, ash dieback and Dutch elm and all this, that and the other. Well, at one time, people will remember that there was a legislation put in, a ruling put in, that diseased timber had to be left in situ. It was not allowed to be transferred. If you dropped a tree because of a disease in it, you had to leave it on your site to let it die and rot down.
Right.
So now they're proposing to ship a lot of this timber. A lot of it's been storm damage, yes, but they're also in the same category putting ash dieback and elm disease. Now, are the forestry people, DEFRA, do they have the ability to send this to the UK, what they're talking about, because you're introducing diseased timber?
Yeah.
And are they paying for that timber to go away? The diseased timber, the other stuff will go away normally, the pine, and that will be used in various industries. But diseased timber, it's a whole different ball game, because you are not allowed to transport diseased timbers or otherwise to the island or from the island, I should imagine.
Well, I mean, the battle has been lost, really, hasn't it, with the ash dieback and Dutch elm and what have you?
Yeah,
There's no coming back from that.
No, but that timber is diseased, and the disease, what I'm saying is you shouldn't be able to transport diseased timber to another country. The same as they've just said about the bees, etc., which is a very sensible idea, and I'm full in favour of it, not allowing to import bees without specific, securities, or even used equipment, etc., and bring that varroa disease into here, decimate the bees. So we got the same principle, but on a bigger scale with diseased timber. Okay,
all right. Howard, appreciate it. Howard, thanks for calling today.
Okay, take care. Bye now.
A local expert, this is consultant arborist Ben Brooker, says that an urgent tree planting programme must begin to replace the predicted loss of most of the Isle of Man's elm and ash stocks. And we're talking about most, over 50%, perhaps a lot more. Ben Brooker said that the Isle of Man faces an environmental crisis in the years to come unless action about trees is taken.
90+% of the two most abundant species on the island are going to be lost in the coming years. This is tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of trees. It's going to have a huge impact on our landscape, on our microclimate, devastating impacts to wildlife, and just generally make the island a less pleasant place to be, I think. So we really need to take steps to get some trees in the ground. Some ways we can do it, obviously support existing charities, the Woodland Trust, for example. Whether you go out planting with them, whether you chuck a few quid in, or simple stuff, engage with their social media posts, liking and sharing it all helps. Another way, dare I say, we need to lean on government. The Isle of Man Climate Change Plan declared a real push for tree planting, but I'm not sure that push is happening in a meaningful way. We've got tons of suitable land on the island which could be used for planting. Obviously, like we mentioned, people could plant their own trees, plant trees in their own property, right tree, right place. And lastly, besides planting, we need to focus on properly maintaining the trees that we have. Of course, the best time to plant a tree is yesterday.
Ben Brooker, and did you hear what he said? 90% of those trees will go. 9 out of 10 trees gone. So the ambience of the countryside, the effects on wildlife, heavens above, water retention in the turf and the soil, and will just look a lot less green and a lot pleasant as well. A lot less pleasant. That's Ben Brooker talking about what he says we should, an urgent tree planting programme to replace the predicted loss of elm and ash on the Isle of Man. Got any thoughts about that? Dick said Donald Trump removed the ban on plastic straws in America and has withdrawn from the Paris Climate Change Agreement and will drill baby drill for oil with the backing of millions of Americans who voted for him. So surely it should be clear to these are Dick's words, tree-hugging MHKs, that the Isle of Man has no chance of saving the planet when America, China and India and other billions around the world are still forging ahead with energy from fossil fuels. Why then even suggest that we need to change all the Isle of Man's taxes at enormous cost and huge inconvenience to every taxi driver to electric across the Isle of Man? We desperately need to get to grip on any climate change efforts in context and apply a large dose of common sense to the money we so desperately need for health, education and roads, which is being wasted on what is now, and again Dick's word, a completely lost cause. Well, it's been mentioned many times, and we all get the picture now that the whole of the British Isles emits 2% of the of carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide really becomes carbon dioxide. So if the British Isles suddenly sunk into the Atlantic Ocean, it wouldn't make a ha'porth of difference to the world. We are a tiny part of the British Isles, so we contribute negligible amounts. So why are we doing it? Well, we're doing it because it's public policy. Our elected representatives have a public policy that's been agreed on to mitigate climate change. Hence, we have a climate change transformation board, and that's what they do. So until it becomes not policy, it will be our policy. So expect more of it. They seem like a lovely bunch of youngsters when you visit the schools, but nobody said they're going to become plumbers. I left school at 15 to make money for the family. This is WhatsApp 528. Times change, don't they? 528? That used to happen at one time, didn't it? And one thing that kind of affects it on the Isle of Man, as opposed to the UK, or certainly England, is that our students don't come back from university owing £45,000. That's de rigueur. That happens all the time in Britain. Anybody who's been to university in England, who lives in England, they come back, they owe thousands. And heaven knows what it does to your state of mind to know that you owe the government that amount of money and they charge interest on it. But that doesn't happen here. So is that encouraging more students to go to university or fewer? Our trees and forestry is at real risk. 143 said the incinerator has requested 6,000 tonnes of timber per year from DEFRA. Is that official? 143. And is this the disease stuff that's being lobbed into the incinerator, or do they have to dry it out first? Whatever happened to that great forest? Gary in Ramsey 467 says, whatever happened to that great forest that was going to be planted up north? I was talking to a tree surgeon, and he told me hundreds of thousands of trees will die on the Isle of Man. Well, he's dead right, Gary, and quite what we do about it and what the government's got in plan. I mean, just adjust your opinion or adjust the circumstances to 9 out of 10 trees or ashes and elms going, falling down, not being there. The Isle of Man will look such a different place, won't it? We employed a builder who had approved government contractor written on his vans and lorries and diggers and every piece of equipment. Thinking it was safe to do so, we gave him a £3,000 deposit, like he asked for. We saw him for a couple of hours after he dug a trench, which turned out to be not to building regulations. Then he disappeared. For 2 years, he's been chased by trading standards, as there's no proof he had the money. But if it wasn't for the government approved signage, we wouldn't have given him the money. So it isn't true. Richard, I'm presuming that you've been through trading standards with that. Did you get a receipt for them? And if he hasn't done the work, that's fairly... Well, keep us informed, Richard. Why is government getting AMPR here? We don't need to fill our prison with more drug dealers. AMPR should be used in the UK to stop them getting on boats. Says G313. Have you thought of the logistics of that, though, G? How would you do that? Because it would have to be AMPR. Let's talk about Heysham. It would have to be AMPR, presumably outside the port of Heysham. Or would you put it in the yard, in the loading yard in Heysham? And then you'd be talking about the Lancashire Constabulary. It's not our land. We have no jurisdiction there. So how would you do that? The AMPR is going to be used at the port, the sea terminal, to survey cars coming off the boat to find out any dodgy people, any dodgy cars. So we have jurisdiction at the sea terminal on the Isle of Man, Circus Beach. We have no jurisdiction in Heysham. It's not our land. So I don't quite know how we're going to do that. And surely you'd rather have a drug dealer inside jail than outside jail. I've just been sitting at the temporary lights on Newcastle Town Road. Not one person is working, says 339. I was homeless once. When I went looking for help from the government, the man over the phone told me to get a tent and go in living it on Sulby Claddocks. To make matters worse, we had 2 children. I'm Manx, not proud of it. Neither am I proud of the Isle of Man, says G in Ramsey. But what happened next, G in Ramsey? And thank you, Desmond, who's wishing everybody a happy Valentine's Day. And the same to you. What are your experiences of government registered and government approved? Do you think this is the way that... And does it give you confidence as to what happens? I'm talking to Rob Callister and his political surgery tomorrow. And just regarding this homeless thing, I'm reminded of... I think it was a couple of weeks ago, Rob Callister asked in questions in Keys about this homelessness survey, which we were told was due to end a couple of weeks ago. He asked a question in Keys. It appeared that after 100 responded to the survey, and apparently the period for answering might have been extended. And Rob Callister was asked at the time, has it been extended? Would it have been extended?
No, it's not going to be extended. What I was trying to get across in the House was if anyone still got concerns, anyone who feels they haven't had an input into this survey, this vital survey, then I would encourage them to contact their local MHKs, feed that information through, pass that information on in order to ensure when future policies come through that we're actually listening, but more importantly, delivering something which will help people in the future.
800 response in 2 weeks. That's pretty big for the Isle of Man. Doesn't that indicate it deserves to be extended?
Yes, I think 800 does underline the issues. I think it's not my position to able to say yes or no. That consultation should be. It will be the Cabinet Office, it'll be the Minister, and probably more importantly...
Shouldn't they have been on their feet?
Well, I think more importantly, it should be the Housing and Community Board with the input from Public Health. I think it's important. But 800, we need to sift through those and find the ones that do have the experience of homelessness, listen to them and see how we can improve things.
A lot of homeless people don't have access to a computer.
I absolutely agree, and I would have possibly done this slightly different, but it is through words of mouth.
How would you have done it?
Well, I would have encouraged people through interviews, through local media, to ask people if they have suffered any form of homelessness, like I have done myself when I was 16. I would speak to their local representatives, feed it through, let's improve the service for everyone.
The bottom line is money is needed to solve this problem, isn't it?
Yes, I think it's not just money. I think we need a suite of options, because one person's circumstances relating to homelessness will be completely different to another. We need a suite of options, and I really have my confidence in the Housing Community Board to put forward solutions that actually do help remove homelessness on the Isle of Man.
There he is, Rob Callister, the man who's got experience of homelessness. He's on, I mentioned this political surgery tomorrow at the Yoncombe Community Hub in School Road, 10:30 tomorrow. And a note in just said, Andy, if you're homeless, how do you report something to your MHK? You've got no address, so you don't officially live in any constituency, as Rob Callister said. It will be, I would think, every MHK, if you called and if you had that sort of issue, somebody somewhere would give you some help. That's virtually guaranteed. I certainly know Rob Callister would. Okay, that and other things. The bees are exciting lots of comment.
When it comes to building and DIY supplies, shop where the professionals shop. Haldane Fisher for concrete blocks to roof trusses, timber to tiles, doors to panel pins, boilers to bathrooms, drainage to guttering, and everything in between. Get the job done with the right products from Haldane Fisher. Visit our stores in Douglas and Ramsey, or find us online on Facebook. Proud to be on Island.
Feel right at home with Haldane Fisher.
People of the Isle of Man, are you thinking of buying or selling a home? Well, wait! You need to talk to the conveyancing team at LVW Law. LVW Law! They've over 20 years of experience and know what they're talking about. They're friendly and efficient. Do not buy or sell a property without calling LVW Law on 836757 for a no obligation quote. LVW Law.
Office World, have we got it? Office World, yes we have. Office World.
For all things stationery, from pens, pencils, paper and ink cartridges to desking and seating, Office World has it. Call 666 366. Come down to Spring Valley Industrial Estate, Braddon, to find out more of what's in store.
Office World, have we got it? Office World, yes we have. Office World.
A late win saw FC Isle of Man claim victory on their travels last weekend. Can they find that taste of success again this weekend, this time back on home territory? This Saturday, the Ravens return to the bowl with Barnoldswick Town, the latest side, looking to claim a result on Manx shores. Join me, Rob Pritchard and Tony Mepham for FC Isle of Man versus Barnoldswick Town, kicking off this Saturday at 6 p.m. Manx Radio will be bringing you full live match commentary on our DAB and AM 1368 channels. Live coverage of FC Isle of Man on Manx Radio is supported by Selton, investing in our community.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Hey, Faster Mai, good afternoon. Did you know, says 880, that the Manx National Heritage proposed to build on the land at the Grove Museum in Ramsey? It's all been very quiet. No, we hadn't heard that. That may be skeet. It may be, but we'll certainly investigate that. I agree with Ben about the trees. The Isle of Man needs a lot of new trees planted, says Andrew in Ramsey. In Canada, where I spent a third of my life, they have many trees, but many are harvested and exported. Maybe we can get the Isle of Man school children or college students to have day trips to plant trees and learn about the value of the planet Earth and the environment. Government surely should have full-time employees that plant and manage trees on the Isle of Man. Have you been to the Millennium Oakwood lately? Right. Julian's with us. Hello, Julian.
Hi, Andy. Hope you're keeping warm in that cold wind.
It is a bit blowy up here, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I bet. Just quickly on the straws, the reason that the US administration is pulling them is partly to do with the fact that the waterproofing chemicals known as perfluorinated and polyfluorinated alkyl substances are worse than the plastic straws. Antwerp University is saying decades, if not forever, chemicals, not biodegradable, implicated in liver damage, cancer, fertility and obesity problems. So that's the primary reason. Trying to keep them, the stuff that they're using to keep them waterproofed, turns out is worse than the plastic straws themselves.
All right.
Climate change consultation, the last one, the climate change plan. It states that 66% of the people that responded are willing to pay more for local electricity. 78% more felt that local renewable generation is important. So 66% willing to pay more for electricity. Total number of responses, 319 individuals and groups. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's roughly 70,000 adults on the Isle of Man. So that's just over 1% of the population in that climate change plan consultation responded. Is that a realistic kind of reflection of what people think on this island?
Well, we don't know, do we? We don't know. I mean, we don't know about the groups. Certainly, you would think that the groups would identify themselves, but certainly we don't know about that. And 66%, 66 out of 100, happy to pay more for their electricity. Wow.
Yeah, 319 responses, 66%. But, you know, we don't know who that is. I mean, that could be anyone from somebody in the street to students at UCM, could be anybody. So, you know, there was no kind of delineation as to who exactly that was. But it does remind me, the assisted dying consultation was over 3,000 people and more than 50% voted against it. So that's 3 times the number in that consultation and over 50% said they didn't want it. Yet, that's not the reality of what's going through Tynwald at the moment. So if sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander, why are we going with the climate change plan then?
This is why it is always better to take part in a survey. If you see any survey, particularly any government survey taking part, then you must take part in it. You must have your voice heard, because otherwise, as you say, it may be that they've got a predetermined idea of what they want to do and are merely looking for the numbers to fall in line.
Well, you know, the other word is a referendum, because then you tend to find that you're going to get a lot larger representation. And I think 319 people can't speak for the Isle of Man, I don't think.
Well, it's interesting that Rob Callister was saying that 800 people entered a survey on homelessness.
Yeah. You know, this could be applied to all kinds of things, from immigration on the island. You know, how many people, you know, are happy to, you know, not use the 5-year work permit. How many people are happy to have people brought here and given everything, you know, on our taxpayer money? You know, I mean, one way or another, it would be nice to know what the island really thinks as a majority, like this word they use, a democratic will of the Isle of Man.
Yeah. Well, we'll certainly find out. I mean, next year, of course, it's all going to happen. Thursday, 24th of September next year, from 8 in the morning till 8 p.m. We'll all have our say. And prior to that, we'll all have a chat about it. A long chat about it, really, because whoever's going to stand for keys next year has got a job on their hands.
Well, yeah, but it'd be interesting to hear exactly what they think at the hustings. I think the Isle of Man are much more focused on what they actually represent and what they promise that they won't do. Because if you look at the manifestos from 21, a lot of the things that are going through now were nothing to do with those manifestos. You've noticed that yourself, I think.
Well, I mean, certainly too, the assisted dying bill and removing the vote of the bishop in Tynwald, they were never mentioned.
Absolutely. So, you know, those hustings, I think people are going to be very much, you know, probably have a pad and paper with them and sort of get a much more, you know, because if you look at the 2021, I mean, every single person that was running were all on the Green agenda. So even though it was what you might call a democratic vote, it's not much of a choice, is it?
Well, I mean, one of the things about the Isle of Man is because every MHK is, well, most of the MHKs, the vast majority are independents. They aren't part of a political party. Then, they can say what's on their mind, and you can hear exactly what sort of person they are and where their political beliefs are. They're not, if you like, whipped into line by a party machine. We have we've got Liberal Mannin, we've got the Manx Labour Party, and that's your lot. So you would have thought I just think that next year it's going to be really important that we all listen to the politicians, the would-be politicians, and they know what it is they're getting into and the fact that everybody watches them. I mean, there are certain politicians who got in last time who said it wasn't what they thought it would be. They didn't think there'd be that amount of scrutiny on them as a politician.
Yeah, and things like, for example, if we've been told in 21 by any of them that we're going to refuse FOIs for the steam packet, even though it's a publicly owned entity, people might have said, what? You know what I mean? It's there are certain things that have happened without precedent, really.
Are you going to apply for the job as chairman of the steam packet, Julian?
Well, I think that's there'd have to be a lot of work done on that one, and we'd have to look at why other, when you look on Vessel Finder, why is it that all the other boats are going in times when we can't? These sort of things are never really answered properly.
Okay.
And that's where transparency comes in.
All right. Appreciate it. Thanks, Julian. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Andy. Cheers.
Interesting to see, says Francis, how the new seawall copes with today's tide, especially as it may lift up due to the way which it's been installed. You're supposed to put the starter bars on an angle, not straight in. And who's going to clear the stone from the drain holes? That's once they've stopped the flooding on the promenade. Well, we'll see, because there is going to be coastal overtopping today. That wall is there, and apparently, I don't know, the news hasn't quite come out how much the artistic displays are going to cost, because there's some artwork that's going to go in the wall. And apparently it's from what I've been led to believe, it's not cheap. When did the climate change consultation come out? It doesn't appear, as far as I know, to have been on the government WhatsApp group notification. Did all the climate change enthusiasts know about it? Of course, most of the people didn't, says Wolfie. So let's get back to the phones now. Alf's on now. Hi, Alf.
Good afternoon, Andy. It's just about the registered and government registered.
Yeah.
I have a letter here dated the 20th of January 1992, obviously sent to my business at that time. And can I read it to you?
By all means, yeah, go ahead.
It might just clarify a few things about this registered and government registered. It says, Dear Sirs, reuse of the term registered or government registered. Under the definition of terms under the order of 1976, only those persons registered as masters with the Building Trades Council were entitled to use the word term registered or government registered. As you are probably aware, the Building Trades Council was rendered defunct on the 1st of November 1990, being replaced by the scheme for the certificated or certification of craftsmen 1990, of which you are a member. This means that the list of registered masters maintained by the Building Trades Council is no longer valid. Her Majesty's Attorney General has advised this division that as there is no longer a BTC, a Building Trades Council, any person who continues to use either the above terms in relation to the building trade may render themselves liable to prosecution under the Consumer Protection Trade Descriptions Act 1970. Accordingly, this division is advising all persons who, to our knowledge, are still using the terms registered and government registered to seem doing so immediately. So in other words, don't do it. Whatever this entails or risks prosecuted. This letter should be construed as a warning letter. Any repetition of the use of either the terms or whatever manner will be followed by the formal caution, and after that proceedings may be taken place against the person concerned. I trust, therefore, that the contents of this letter will be noted to avoid the need for proceedings to be initiated. Thank you for anticipated cooperation in this matter. And that was signed by Mr. J.S. Peat at that time, who was the Inspector of the Trading Standards. Now, what that means is that all persons, probably a lot of the lads were notified at that time, that once the Building Trades Council had ceased, was where everybody really registered themselves, it was okay. But once they ceased to do that, you had to remove, like the word registered or government registered, off your vehicles or off your letter headings or your business cards or whatever, which we had to do because it had been disbanded. So really, in retrospect, there is no government registration unless it's been changed in the meantime. For all I know, that my son runs our business now, and all I know is that we have to adhere by them regulations. You know, still got it on, certificated craftsman, you know, city and guilds and all the rest of it on his stuff. So really, it might clarify a few things of why. And some people are going around with government registered on their vehicles.
I mean, can you understand why the public is confused about this, Alf?
Well, I can understand it because obviously either the consumer boards need to get it out there if it's still in place and let everybody know what's happening. It's as simple as that. I mean, I can send you a copy of this letter because, strange enough, I've kept it in a file. I just keep things like, you know, and I just happened to hear that David Quirk, well, David will know, probably understand about the Builders and Trades Council, because I remember David when he was, you know, a plumber and all the rest of it in them days. And if I'd had David's phone number, I would have rang him up, but I can't find it. And I might drop a copy of this down to him so he can see for himself.
Well, yeah, by all means, please drop me a copy of that, Alf. I'd appreciate it.
Because probably ordinary guys that were employed by people would not know about this. It would be only the employer that would be getting these letters, you see. So that was all them years ago. So we're talking about January 1992, and believe it or not, the Building Trades Council was disbanded, like in 1990, and the 1st of November 90. Well, it's a bit faded print on this letter now.
So you kept that since 1992. You must have a big filing cabinet, Alf.
No, just I haven't got a big filing cabinet, to be honest with you. I just keep things that I think that are an important issue that arise, like, you know, about people having things, you know. So, and I'm nearly 81 now, so sorry, that's a long time ago, like, you know. So I thought it might be of interest to.
That's great. I appreciate it, Alf, and thanks for putting us straight on that. Have a good weekend.
So, yeah, the chief inspector at that particular time was Ken Kinraid, actually.
Oh, wow, yes.
So it's all written here, like, you know, so it's on government-headed paper. So it was disbanded. So, anyway, thank you very much for your time.
Appreciate it. Okay.
Okay, then.
Cheers now. Thanks for that, Ken Kinraid. He loved his stock cars, Ken.
This is my last will and testament. To my family, I leave years of financial headaches, large legal bills, and the prospect of having to sell our home to pay for it all.
Is that the legacy you choose to leave? Without a proper will and thorough planning, it could happen. Man Benham Advocates, experiencing wills, probate and estate planning with a friendly service to make sure the future of your loved ones are secure. Don't put it off. Call 639 350 for your free initial consultation with Man Benham. Here for you.
Get ready for a magical March at the Empress with an array of fantastic events. Kicking off with comedy on the 1st of March with impressionist Christopher G. On Friday the 21st, you'll love the Greatest Showman tribute. And on Saturday the 22nd, it's musical magic, both with welcome drink, 3-course carvery and fabulous entertainment. Book a table of 10 and get one free place. For information, bookings and more great events, call 66 1155 or visit theempresshotel.net.
When you need a fitting memorial or headstone for a loved one, contact Manx Memorials in Peel. This long-standing family-run Manx company offer a wide range of granite and marble headstones and memorials, along with an island-wide inscription and renovation service. Manx Memorial's skilled professionals will take the time to help you choose a suitable memorial, and we're proud to say we'll beat other local quotes. Call 843 861 or email matthew@manxmemorials.co.uk.
We make oil heating easy with our range of services. Whether it's our free smart tank monitoring systems or just our efficient all-island deliveries, Ellen Vannin Fuels has it covered. Call us on 844 000 to find out more.
Next week, the Treasury Minister will deliver this government's fourth budget, and on Perspective, we assess the current shape of government finances and consider what might be announced in the budget in Tynwald on Tuesday. The Treasury Minister has been dropping broad hints about what could be revealed, particularly in relation to pensions and national insurance, but with government's Our Island plan struggling to get off the starting blocks, there's little slack in the system to deliver much good news. That's Perspective this Sunday at 12 noon on Manx Radio with me, Phil Gaughan. With housing rentals up nearly 20% last year, but sticking plasters significantly cheaper, perhaps plastering over the cracks may be the best option.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Here's Charlie with us now. Hi, Charlie.
Hi, Ray. When you park on the promenade before Christmas, between the garden walls and the shelters, they have boards put in to stop overflow going into the gardens.
Yeah.
The new wall that they put in, where the opens are left to go onto the beach, they're just flush. There's nothing being put in. There should be a groove down the end pillars to drop overflow boards in to stop any flow coming onto the promenade.
Yes, I noticed that, but I thought that there was obviously some smart idea behind it. So you think they're not going to put something perhaps the other side of it?
What are they going to do? Put sandbags in?
It could be. Yeah.
The thing is, if the architect had to put a 75mm by 75mm groove down the end pillars, all they had to do was drop 75mm boards in, and that would stop the flow onto the promenade and the debris coming onto the promenade, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but maybe they just know a lot more than we do, Charlie.
Well, they need to take the feather out and put it somewhere else.
What do you think of the wall, by the way?
I think it's a monstrosity. And how much it's going to cost to paint. Because the last time there was an overflow, Douglas Corporation then had pressure washers on the wall to get the seaweed off it. And that was on the promenade side. And the men with the diggers and shovels were removing the debris.
Do you think this is the thin end of the wedge? Do you think they're going to extend it now?
I hope not. But the thing is, I've said before, when I was a kid, there was at least 2 meters from the beach to the promenade. He had to come up steps onto the promenade.
Yeah. I mean, it was about 10 steps down to the beach, wasn't it?
Yeah, but even at the bottom of Broadway, where that concrete thing is, you had to go down steps there on the north side of the beach to get onto the beach. But would have been cheaper to dig out the shale. But it's the same. They clear the seaweed. They take it down to low water for the next incoming tide to bring it back in again.
Well, they've never really said. I mean, they seem to always say, well, you know, we can't do it. We can't take we can't take the sand away. We can't take the shingle away. They always say that. But I mean, if it's just going to
keep the groins out,
it's just going to build up, isn't it? It's going to build up behind that wall, surely.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's got worse since the groins were taken out. It's been proved that the sand and gravel are getting washed towards the harbour, and a couple of years ago they had silt building up in the harbour because the flow of the tide was taking water round to the harbour mouth.
But is that because of the battery pier, though? Is that because of the stabbits?
Well, the stabbits go out further now, so any water getting washed along the seawall or sand getting washed along the seawall at Loch Promenade is coming up against the barrier, isn't it? Because they had to, I remember when they were blasting out the back of Conster Rock in order to give a deeper channel for the boats. so they could extend the harbour out.
Yeah. Okay. All right. It's good to talk to you, Charlie.
Okay.
Thanks for being with us.
Bye.
Cheers now. Regarding the artwork on the sea wall, I seem to remember that they applied for an extra £40,000 on top of the cost of the wall to put the artwork on, says 333. 40,000. Wow. All the best of the Ravens tomorrow, under the lights at the bar. They're playing Barnoldswick. Their fans call them Barlick. Sounds a bit like garlic to me. Anyway, all the best. Steve Whitley and the rest of them are on target tomorrow. And a note in from Erica, who said, I was walking down Victoria Street the other day and a taxi driver threw an empty bottle of Ribena out of the passenger window onto the pavement. Is that true? I got his number, says Erica. Right. Thanks to Chris Quirk on the phone today. Have a great weekend.
WIN